Hey guys. Welcome to the pilot episode of M3 Millennial Memories Media, where we will go back and dig into the television series, films, music, and video games from the late 80s to early 2000s. Let's start with a series that really gets me in my feels. We're going to kick off M3 with a beloved drama series that originally aired on the WB network from 1996 to 2006. And then moved to the CW for its final season in 2006 to 2007. Seventh Heaven.
Seventh Heaven, when I see their happy faces smiling back at me. Seventh Heaven, I know there's no greater feeling than the love of family. Where can you go when the world don't treat you right? The answer is home. That's the one place that you'll find. Seventh Heaven. Seventh Heaven.
You might know that there is a total of 11 seasons and 203 episodes of Seventh Heaven. It would take forever to get into detail of every episode for the entirety of the series. So I will only be covering the key storylines, character development, and a few episodes that stood out to me the most. One significant topic that resonates with our generation is the events of 9/11. Seventh Heaven addressed the impact of this tragedy in 2 episodes centered around the character Ruthie. In the first episode, Ruthie and her family confront a common misconception that all Muslims are to blame for the attacks on the Twin Towers. This episode emphasizes that people of different races, religions, genders, and nationalities should not be unfairly judged based on the actions of a few. In another episode, Ruthie writes a letter to a soldier who has been sent to fight in Afghanistan in the spring of 2002 as part of the ongoing response to these events. This storyline highlights the personal experiences and emotions surrounding war, and how it affects the families left at home. As a child, the events surrounding 9/11 affected me. I vividly remember being in elementary school when the Twin Towers were attacked. It was a scary time, and I felt a deep sense of dread about what might happen next. My teacher rushed to turn on the TV, and I was stunned when I saw footage of a plane crashing into the towers. At just 6 years old, I was the first in my family to learn about this terrible event, while my parents found out a bit later that day. After some time, I learned that a group called ISIS was linked to the attacks, which was my first introduction to the idea of terrorists. For months, I kept seeing a man named Osama bin Laden on TV and in the news. He was the leader of Al-Qaeda, the group behind the attack on the World Trade Center. For a decade. Until Osama was killed, he was someone I viewed as very frightening because I didn't understand what his plans might be for America and what he could have done if he had become more powerful. This is just one of the reasons I believe that our generation struggles with anxiety and depression. I know that we are talking about entertainment, but if you struggle, I encourage you to talk to someone, a friend, family member, pastor, doctor, or counselor. If you're in crisis, please reach out for help. Crisis text line, text BAY to 741741. You can call or text 988 for immediate support. National Suicide Prevention Hotline 2738255. Now back to Seventh Heaven. In an episode from the second season, Simon has to choose a topic for his history assignment. He gets inspired when he sees a number 2 on Missy's Kurja's arm, leading him to invite a Holocaust survivor to share their story. The ending of this episode touched me when Mrs. Kurjas talked about her experiences during the Holocaust. It reminded me of a Holocaust class I took in high school, which turned out to be one of the most powerful subjects I studied. The stories we learned were incredibly sad, revealing how Hitler and the Nazis targeted Jewish people for frightening and unjust reasons. Those examples are a reason why Seventh Heaven works so well. The writers put so much effort into researching important subjects such as drugs, underage drinking, teen pregnancies, addictions, suicide, gangs, loss of a loved one, etc. Let's explore the journey of some of the Camden sibs throughout the series. You might think that Reverend Eric Camden is the main focus of the show, but actually, that's not the case. In my opinion, the true star of the show is Ruthie Camden. Ruthie Camden is the smart and wise one in the Camden family, always ready to offer advice to her older siblings and parents. They often rely on her guidance, as they sometimes struggle to handle different challenges in their lives. Ruthie isn't just the youngest child of the Camden family, she feels like part of our family too, since we've watched her grow from a sweet little girl into a lovely young woman throughout the series. In the later seasons, she finds herself in relationships with two boys named Peter and Vincent, and also later has a crush on a charming guy called Martin. I know that Ruthie was dating this nerd named T-Bone, but I don't acknowledge Season 11's existence. I can connect with Ruthie in several ways, especially since we're close in age. I also grew up during the late 90s to the late 2000s and faced many challenges during my childhood and teenage years. I can relate to a few other family members as well. Like Lucy, I sometimes tend to overreact and overthink things. I also have a younger sibling, just like Matt, which makes me the older brother. Plus, I am studying television and film much like Simon. I love how I get to see my favorite duo in the show, Simon and Ruthie, evolve from a pair of kids pretending to be the spy kids by stalking a random mailman to a pair of typical teenagers who deal with various dramas in the later seasons. I wanted to share that I recently had some amusing and interesting encounters with Mackenzie Rosman, who played Ruthie, and David Gallagher, who portrayed Simon. Stay tuned for the next episode to hear all the fun stories about what happened. As the storyline of Seventh Heaven unfolds, Simon experiences a lot of positive moments in his life throughout the first 7 seasons of the show. However, everything changes when he accidentally causes the death of a classmate in a car crash at the end of the 7th season. This tragic event leaves Simon deeply affected, and the older brother of the classmate becomes determined to get revenge on him. In response to the situation, Eric, Annie, and Simon's principal decide to help Simon graduate from high school a year early so he can leave town and stay safe. As the storyline continues, we follow Matt, who shifts from being a charming guy with many romantic interests to graduating from medical school. He is joined by his wife, Sarah, who comes from a different religious background than Matt. The writers continue to keep things interesting with the introduction of Matt's love interests, specifically his dating a deaf girl named Heather throughout the series. Another significant plot point involves a holy war theme where Matt's father, Eric, who is a Christian minister, and Sarah's father, Richard, who is a Jewish rabbi, struggle to agree on their differing religious beliefs. His conflict arises as they prepare for Matt and Sarah's wedding. Now let's talk about Mary, a member of the Camden family who definitely stands out and not in a good way. Unlike her siblings, I find it really hard to connect with her. Mary is a talented basketball player with dreams of making it to the WNBA. But her life took a serious turn for the worse. The turn all started when her basketball coach decided to close the gym because the entire team was struggling in school. If you haven't seen the show in a while, this marked the beginning of Mary's downward spiral. Soon, she began hanging out with a couple who smoked marijuana and had a baby outside of marriage, which raised a lot of eyebrows. On top of that, she couldn't keep up with her car payments or her living expenses at home. One of the most heartbreaking moments comes when Mary's parents, Eric and Annie, decide to send Mary to live with her grandparents in Buffalo. During this tough time, her siblings have a meaningful conversation with her. I have to give credit to Mack, who plays Ruthie, the youngest Camden sibling. You can really feel Ruthie's disappointment as she realizes that someone she has always looked up to isn't meeting hers or the family's expectations. What made it even harder to watch was that Mary showed no regret for her actions. Instead, she was angry at her family for sending her away and didn't even apologize. At that moment, I couldn't help but think of her as the least likable member of the Camden family throughout the series. As I look back, I have several positive takeaways from Seventh Heaven. I mean, there's so much to love about this show. First off, I really want to give a shout out to the composers of the theme music, Johnny Rivers, Jack Tempchin, and Steve Plunkett. They did an incredible job creating a catchy theme song that always made me excited to watch each episode. As I watched the show, I often found myself singing along to the theme because it was so memorable, easy to remember, and still gets me in my feels. Another positive takeaway is their chemistry. I really appreciate how the original cast of Seventh Heaven built such a wonderful bond that made me care about both the characters and the actors who played them. Even today, long after the show ended, many of the cast treat each other like family. For instance, I recently watched a Seventh Heaven cast reunion panel on YouTube from a 90s convention, and it was clear that the love and strong chemistry between the cast members are still very much alive. There's also a fun podcast called Catching Up with the Camdens, hosted by Mack, David, and Beverly. It features some of the actors from the show, including Catherine Hicks, Barry Watson, Ashley Simpson, and Jessica Biel. I really enjoyed each episode as they shared their experiences and memories from filming the show. Listening to this podcast is a fantastic way to relive childhood memories, just like other similar shows have their own podcasts, such as Pod Meets World for Boy Meets World, How Rude Tanneritos for Full House, and Keenan and Larkin for Step by Step. I highly recommend checking out these podcasts if you want to take a trip down memory lane. When we reached the Season 10 finale, I found myself in tears every time they played clips from the very first episode. Over the past 10 seasons, we've watched all the kids, especially Ruthie, grow up right before our eyes. So I thought that I would give you a brief math lesson. Mack Rosman was born in December of '89, and Seventh Heaven aired its very first episode in September of '96. All right. Mack was 5 to 6 years old when Seventh Heaven aired its first episode in 1996 and was 17 to 18 when Seventh Heaven aired its final episode in 2007. Well, for those of you who were in your 20s to 40s when the show came out, if this fact doesn't make you feel old enough, oh boy, wait until we get to the Where Are They Now segment of this video. I appreciate how the writers and cast poured their hearts into creating a beautiful wrap-up for Seventh Heaven. Or so we thought. Let's dive into some of the things that bothered me about the show. There were two big issues that stood out. As someone who enjoys seeing an attractive guy and a beautiful girl come together in TV shows and movies, I was really disappointed that the writers didn't fully develop the love story between Ruthie and Martin. I genuinely believe they had great chemistry and were meant to be together. Even Mack, who played Ruthie, felt that her character should end up with Martin. It's a missed opportunity. I beg someone viewing this to write a fan fiction version of what would have happened if Ruthie and Martin had stayed together. Please tag me so that I can share your work. I remember watching the finale of Seventh Heaven Season 10 with my parents, and we all believed it was the end of the series. This was back in 2006, before social media was a big thing and mostly about staying connected with friends and family. We had no clue that there was actually a Season 11 until a few months ago when I decided to rewatch the show after many years. After watching all of Season 11, I really think it shouldn't have happened at all. It felt like a completely different show because they introduced so many new characters, and only a handful of the original cast members returned, including Stephen Collins, Catherine Hicks, Beverly Mitchell, and Mackenzie Rosman. This change took away what made Seventh Heaven special for many of us. I wanted to see more of the original characters I loved, rather than focusing so much on the new ones. One important point is that you really can't have Seventh Heaven without the character Ruthie. She was missing from the first 6 episodes of the 11th season, and those episodes felt pretty boring without her. It's similar to classic shows like I Love Lucy without Lucille Ball, or Malcolm in the Middle without Frankie Muniz, and even The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air without Will Smith. Ruthie has always been a key part of Seventh Heaven, essentially carrying the show since it started. The writer decided to revisit Eric's health storyline, which had already been addressed back in Season 4, and this feels like a sign that they might be running out of fresh ideas. I was also really frustrated with the Season 11 finale because it seemed to undermine the beautiful an emotional ending that the original writing team crafted for Seventh Heaven in Season 10. In this finale, we see Eric and Annie taking some family members and a few random characters on a road trip for no clear reason, which honestly doesn't make much sense. Plus, it was disappointing that the rest of the original cast didn't appear to give a proper farewell. Instead, we were left with new characters that we didn't really care about. My theory is that the writers or the studio were hoping for a spin-off series featuring one or more of the new characters. You might be curious as to why I haven't talked about the two youngest members of the Camden family, Sam and David, until now. Honestly, I feel like they don't really contribute much to the story, and neither writers helped us build a strong emotional connection to them. Another reason is that the Camden family is already quite large, so adding more characters might feel a bit unnecessary for the story. Personal rant warning. I saved this takeaway for last because there's a character in the series that I really cannot stand: Simon's ex-girlfriend, Rose. I find her very unpleasant because she takes advantage of the Camden family's kindness and is quite demanding. It honestly baffles me that the writer chose to keep this infuriating character around for an entire season when she probably should have only appeared in a couple of episodes. Everything she does in the episode she appears in makes me want to pull my hair out because she doesn't change at all. To put it simply, she is just a really unlikable character. I am giving this classic drama series an A and a score of 9.5. It's a fantastic opportunity to gather as a family and enjoy a binge-watching session together. If you're like me and feel a sense of nostalgia for the good old days, you should definitely give it a try. If you're curious about what the cast of Seventh Heaven has been up to since the show wrapped up, you're in the right place. Let's take a look at where some of the cast members are now. First up is Stephen Collins, Rev. Eric Camden. Many of you probably know about him, but I won't go into details here because it's quite a sensitive topic. Moving on, Catherine Hicks, Annie Camden. She is kept busy with her acting career and appeared in several made-for-TV movies until she decided to retire in 2023. After Seventh Heaven, Barry Watson Mack Camden took the lead in a drama series called What About Brian? But unfortunately, it was cancelled after just 2 seasons. He then starred in another show called Samantha Who, and even directed an episode of The Secret Life of the American Teenager created by Brenda Hampton, who also worked on Seventh Heaven. Barry got married in December 2012 to Natasha Gregson, and they have a daughter together, along with 2 more children from Barry's previous marriage. David Gallagher Simon Camden appeared as a guest on various shows like Smallville and Bones, along with different episodes of the CSI series. He later decided to switch up his look by growing a beard and has since married a chef. David is also into gaming and streams on Twitch during some evenings. Among the original cast members, Jessica Biel Mary Camden has remained the most active in Hollywood, continuing to star in numerous films. Here's a fun fact: she is married to Justin Timberlake, who is well known for being part of NSYNC in the late 90s and early 2000s, as well as being on the Mickey Mouse Club. Interestingly, Justin's bandmate, Lance Bass, was a guest star on Seventh Heaven as Lucy's date before he publicly came out in 2006. Beverly Mitchell Lucy Camden landed a recurring role on The Secret Life of the American Teenager a few years after Seventh Heaven ended, plus she has starred in several made-for-TV movies. She married Michael Cameron in October 2008, with Mackenzie and Jessica by her side as bridesmaids. Beverly and Michael now have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Like Beverly, Mackenzie Rosman Ruthie Camden also had a recurring role on The Secret Life of the American Teenager and appeared in a few made-for-TV films. After spending over 20 years in the bustling environment of Hollywood, she chose to move to a quieter area in Maryland in the late 2010. There, she owns a few horses, chickens, 3 dogs, and 3 cats, living a life as a gardener and a mom. In 2022, Mack and her boyfriend welcomed a baby girl into the world. Mackenzie also streams on Twitch, where she shares her farming chores during the day and plays video games at night on some days. It's fascinating to see how these cast members have grown and changed since their days on Seventh Heaven. In conclusion, Seventh Heaven is a unique drama series that offers many meaningful life lessons throughout its first 10 seasons. It resonates with kids from the 90s and early 2000s, including myself. One thing to note is that you won't find many shows today that are as well written or feature such strong chemistry among the cast. Nowadays, entertainment often focuses more on social media and appearances. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below sharing your favorite character, season, or episode of Seventh Heaven. I'd like to hear your opinions, even if they are different than mine, but just a heads up if you say your favorite character is Rose and your favorite season is 11. We might have to have a little chat about. LOL. With that said, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of M3 Millennials Memories Media.